In Extension, we have two types of programs, in-depth and outreach. You may be asking yourself, what is the difference between an in-depth program and an outreach program? Outreach programs are those events or activities that provide an educational experience for participants. They could be one-time programs that meet the needs for education on a particular subject or an annual event that occurs each year. Outreach programs are excellent ways to put the extension educator in the spotlight in front of the community. Some examples of outreach programs would be community health fairs, annual pecan shows, county fair or livestock shows, annual CEU conference, or presentations to local civic groups or clubs. Now, what is an in-depth program? Here is the official definition of an in-depth program that is used by Extension, with the key words highlighted in red. In-depth programs are targeted towards a specific group of people. These programs have a high level of involvement from program area committees and other planning groups, and tend to use multiple methods of delivery. And most importantly, these programs are measurable. In-depth programs should also be interpreted to various stakeholder groups. Now that we've defined the difference between in-depth and outreach, let's talk about what actually goes into an in-depth program summary. In Extension, we develop programs based on issues that have been identified by the community or through some form of needs assessment. This helps us validate the need to address the issues in communities. We further describe what Extension did to address the issue through education. And finally, we illustrate the impact of the program. We in Extension frame this as the 3 R's: relevance, response, and results. In-depth summaries are compiled and placed in a narrative form on a 1 to 2 page document entitled Making a Difference. This document is intended to be utilized by agents to help them in telling the story about their most impactful programs. Use of any kind of visualization tools such as charts, graphs, photos, etc. is highly encouraged to help the reader better understand both what the program was and how it impacted the community. Now let's find out about the relevance, response, and results. In the first section of the summary, the relevance section, it is important to frame the issue that's being addressed by Extension educational effort. This section should be a short paragraph revealing the importance of the issue and how education can help fix it. Staying in the relevance section of the summary, it is important to provide at least one sentence on the importance of the topic to the county. This can include dollar figures, number impacted, etc. One sentence on where the issue was identified, and some information about the target audience. Each of these examples help to frame the importance of the issue. The first example listed the number of farms and total number of acres that would be affected in Williamson County. The next example lists a total dollar amount or impact to the county from beef, cattle, and hay production. Both are good examples of illustrating the importance to the county. It is also important to illustrate where the issue might have been identified. In this example, we can see that the first issue statement listed was identified by the Program Area Committee. In the next example, we can see that the issue was derived from the Leadership Advisory Board Issue 4. Our last descriptive in the relevance section is our target audience. Here are some examples of target audiences from in-depth program summaries. We can see in the first example that our target audience was 500 purebred and commercial beef cattle producers, while in our second example, our target audience was very focused on senior citizens with type 2 diabetes that congregate at senior meal sites in Wheeler County. Another good example of target audience is the third example listed here: at-risk economically disadvantaged youth at the Vernon Boys and Girls Club. Once we have it all together, this is what it will look like: a paragraph that details why the issue is important to the county, who identified it, and who the target audience will be for the effort. The response section of your summary is your opportunity to state exactly what was done to address the issue. In this section is where you will put the events and activities that were used to address the issue. You can be descriptive in detailing what was done, but be brief, using only 1 or 2 sentences to explain your efforts. A list of activities that were done to address the issue can also be included in this section. Listing the name of the event, the location where it was held, and the date it took place are all good information, and it helps the reader determine exactly what was done. Something that is optional that could be included in this section is a brief statement about the partnerships and collaborations that were formed or are ongoing. In this example, we can see the writer listed each activity along with the date in which it took place. They also provided a brief narrative about the contents of the entire program. One area that is often overlooked in the in-depth summary is some sort of explanation about how data was collected or an evaluation strategy. It is important to include this because it helps the reader understand the results of the program and how they were collected in a reliable and efficient manner. It also helps to further validate the final results of the program. When thinking about how to write this section, include at least one sentence that speaks about the data collection method that was used, what type of information was being collected, and what the response rate was. You will want to list both the totals and percentages related to the response rate. Once we have our response rate and relevant sections completed, it's time to move on to the results section. This section should be recorded in a manner that is easy for the reader to understand. So it's suggested that in lieu of using narrative statements, think about using short bulleted statements to help describe the contents of a chart or a table. This can be the most difficult section of the report to generate, but it is the most important part of the document. Just a couple of points to keep in mind. When listing results, try to list the most significant results first. List totals and percentages to further drive home the impact. And remember, you don't have to include everything. How you tell the story in the relevance and response sections is up to you. However, the results can be pulled straight from the data that you receive from the Organizational Development Unit. A blank template is available from the website listed below. Here is what the Making a Difference document looks like when you download it from the Organizational Development website. And here is the relevance and response section filled in and completed. Let's look at 3 different forms of impact that might be measured using ScanForm technology: knowledge change, intentions to adopt, and economic impact, and how we can pull the data from the report and put it into an effective in-depth summary. Before we begin, it's important to note that the statistical analysis that is run by the Organizational Development Unit generates a lot of data. You do not have to try to use all the numbers that are generated by the report. Use only what is the most important in telling your story. Too much information can cause information overload. Also, do not simply copy and paste the information directly from the table generated by the report. Customize your own tables to make them more attractive to the reader. Here is an example of a report that is generated by the Organizational Development Unit when economic impact questions are asked. You will notice in the top box under the heading of descriptive statistics in the far left column, the question total anticipated economic benefit for the operation using acres. The next column over is the number or N of persons that indicated that they would receive an economic benefit, and that number is 19. Within the descriptive statistics box, there are several items that we should take note of, such as minimum, maximum, sum, and mean. The minimum in this case is irrelevant because it is 0. However, the maximum is relevant because someone filling out the questionnaire indicated they would anticipate a $725 economic benefit from their participation in the course. The sum would indicate the total economic benefit of all those 19 persons that said they would benefit economically. The mean is simply the average response of all those involved. Standard deviation is not of much importance to the reader and should not be included in this summary. The middle box is the frequency statistics associated with the previous question. The items to note in this table are the total number of individuals that indicated an economic benefit from their participation in the program. In other words, those that marked yes, and again, their number was 19. We also see the number that marked no, and that number is 6, for a total of 25 persons that answered that question. There was also one person that was considered missing from the total because they either did not answer the question or their answer was somehow marked as invalid. And this would give us a grand total of 26 participants. The percent column would not be used in the report. Instead, we would use a valid percent because it accounts for the missing data and only applies percentages to those individuals that actually answered the question or had a valid response. Under the column marked valid percent, we can note that 76% of our population marked yes and 24% marked no. Cumulative percent is not used in this example. In the bottom box, we find how much each participant estimated benefiting per acre based on a given set of parameters. $1 to $3, $4 to $6, $7 to $10, and more than $10. Again, in the frequency column, we find the actual number of responses in each category and the total number of missing responses. We will again use the valid percent column instead of the percent or cumulative percent column because we are trying to capture only the number of persons that indicated an economic benefit and not those that did not answer the question or provided an invalid data. Another method of capturing client change is intention to adopt. This measurement is usually gathered using a 4 or 5-point Likert scale. In this instance, participants were given the option of answering definitely will adopt, probably will adopt, already adopted, probably will not adopt, or definitely will not adopt. The questions that were asked of each participant were listed under the heading of practice or technology that could be adopted and are listed as 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the far left. The information that you will receive from the Organizational Development Unit has been simplified to include only the total number who responded positively to the questions, probably will adopt, and definitely will adopt. Those numbers are listed in the third column. The total number who responded to each question is listed under the next column. The final column to the right is a percentage of those who probably will adopt or definitely will adopt the practice. In this slide, we show you how to put economic impact and intent to adopt into a results section. In the top paragraph, we can see that total of 26 people participated in the program and 76% or 19 of them anticipated receiving an economic benefit. The anticipated savings per acre is listed next in the bulleted form. The following paragraph records our intentions to adopt. Again, we are listing the most significant changes first, regardless of where they were listed on the report from organizational development. Change in knowledge or client change is most often gleaned from a retrospective post-survey, asking participants what they knew about a particular subject before they participated in the course and what they know now that the course is over. This is scored using an average or mean score of 4 or 5-point scale, with 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. For this example, 4 was the highest score. Again, in the far left columns, we find the list of questions that were asked and the order they were asked. The mean before is the average of the answers given by participants about their knowledge prior to their participation in the course. The mean after is their level of knowledge after their participation in the course. Both are important to note and can be reported as an indicator of client change. The percentage change column on the far right can help the reader of the information further come to the realization that true change has taken place. Here is a way that we might record our change of knowledge in a table format. Using only certain questions from our results, we can rearrange them based on our percentage change from the most significant to the least significant. To help better tell the entire story, a brief narrative was written above the table, and the before mean and after mean were also listed. Now let's say you have an entire year's worth or an entire series worth of data you are trying to incorporate into a report. You shouldn't try to include a table for each and every session that was taught because our report only needs to be about 2 pages total. So how do we capture the important data and summarize it at the conclusion of a program? There are a few things that our stakeholders would like to know that you can get from an individual report from the Organizational Development Unit, such as the total number of persons that attended the program, the number that responded to the surveys, and if asked, a macro measures report can be generated that indicates the knowledge gained in at least one subject matter area and the intention to adopt at least one practice. In this table, we can see in the far left-hand side a listing of each course that was offered, and then a column representing the total attendees, survey respondents, percent respondents increasing knowledge in at least one subject matter area, followed by a column on the far right of the percent of participants that plan to take action or make changes to at least one management practice. You will also notice at the bottom that each column has been totaled. These numbers can be important as well and can be reported in the summary of the program to illustrate the true size and scope of the effort. In the previous slide, we were able to summarize knowledge gained and intention to adopt. Now we can think about summarizing economic impact over the entire course of the program. This is probably the point in the presentation where I can emphasize two very important aspects of writing a good in-depth summary. First, the importance of good record keeping, and second, the importance of sending in your evaluation information as soon as you can after the program to the Organizational Development Unit. Good record keeping would include organizing the information about your program into an easy to access set of files, either hard copy or electronic. And sending in your evaluation as soon as possible saves lots of time on both ends of the process. If you send your evaluations in as soon as the program is over, you're more likely not going to misplace anything, and by waiting until the end of the year to send everything in causes a huge logjam for the Organizational Development Unit. With regards to our economic summary table, our individual sessions are listed on the far left. The data can be recorded for the summary comes from only 3 sources. Our percentage of participants that indicated receiving economic benefit, which can be obtained from the frequency table from each session, and the total program value per respondent, listed in the descriptive stats box as a mean or average. And lastly, the total program's economic benefit, also shown in the descriptive statistics box and listed as sum. Again, the numbers from each program should be added up and used later in the summary portion of your in-depth summary. The final portion of the report will be writing the summary. The numbers used for recording the summary information come from our total categories from our tables that detail the information about knowledge gain, intent to adopt, and economic impact of the entire program. In this section, it never hurts to thank all the stakeholder groups and supporters of the program. It is important to note here that all those listed should receive a copy of the report. Also, a public value statement should be posted at the end of each in-depth summary. This public value statement helps the reader understand the overall value of the extension program on a larger scale and what impact it has on the state. You can download the Making a Difference template by going to our website, od.tamu.edu. Click on Accountability, Telling Your Story, and Interpretation Resources. From the Interpretation Resources page, templates for the annual reports and in-depth summaries hot link is listed. For individual in-depth summaries, simply click on the Outcome Summary template. When you are ready to submit your county annual report, click on the icon above entitled County Annual Report Template. Thank you for listening to my presentation on developing quality in-depth summaries. For more information about developing these summaries, you can contact me, Philip Shackelford, at 979-845-7280, or you can email me at p-shackelford at tamu.edu. And for more information about in-depth program summaries and making a difference documents, please visit our website, od.tamu.edu.